Got an interesting story to share. Today I wandered around the Bukchon Hanok village. You know, those old Korean houses. Always been captivated by our cultural heritage, dude. Met this cool architecture enthusiast named Jin A. We explored together. So strolling through those winding alleys, I couldn't help but be reminded of my childhood in Busan. You know what's funny? Smelling the aging timber, it was like I was teleported back to that old house of ours with Mom's hand-baked sourdough wafting through the rooms. Now isn't it amazing how scents can trigger memories so vivid, no? And you know me, I also have a soft spot for hidden back alleys. Man, could picture myself darting through those streets, a little football at my feet. How does that song go? Turn Back the Hand of Time or something like that. Also, the stone-paved courtyards could make fine bouldering spots, I must say. Remember how we used to check the temperature of our tiny oven in our shared dorm, making sure our midnight pizza didn't turn into charcoal? Well, guess what? I'm obsessing over something else these days. Isn't it amazing how something as trivial as monitoring oven temperature can lead to watching a tomato plant grow in your balcony?
Yeah, you heard it right. I've started this little organic gardening project at my place.
It's a whole new world for me, dude. A break from the kitchen's heat. I even see it as sort of a mental therapy. It's like I've taken my compulsion for the oven temperature and channeled it into the well-being of these plants. Self-care, but make it green. Get what I'm saying? It's rather calming, like watching one of my sourdough loaves slowly rising in the oven or the relaxed rhythm of kneading dough. Now, I'm here checking if my basil has sprouted yet. I know. It's the chef in me speaking. But the similarity is uncanny. But you should see how the seedlings break through the soil, tiny leaves like little soldiers standing to attention. And I was sharing this with Juwon and Yuna earlier today. They were so excited. Yuna even called it a great form of self-care. Juwon, the tech guru, went on to draw parallels between my gardening and his code breaking. To be fair, I consider him decoding any tech jargon as something close to magic. Can you guess their responses when I told them my goal is to grow tomatoes for our pizzas? I swear, I could almost hear their tummies rumbling in anticipation of a home-cooked, homegrown meal. Man, I've got a tall order to fulfill. You know, this journey of growing your own food is kind of humbling. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but I can cook up a storm, but hadn't put much thought into the source of my ingredients before this. Crazy, ain't it? An eye-opener indeed. And it's not just about sourdough and tomatoes, dude. It's like a microcosm of life. You plant seeds in the soil and hope that it will grow into something beautiful. There's an untouched simplicity to it. Isn't it amazing how every friendship, every community has its own unique flavor, an ingredient that makes it special? Well, today, my friend, something happened that gave our bouldering community a new spiciness. Yuna and I started a book club within our rock-loving gang. Think about it. Climbing and philosophy, we are literally taking intellectual discussions to new heights. Yuna is such a trailblazer, isn't she? She always has these incredible ideas. And well, I couldn't help but get on board, could I? It's like adding a fresh herb to a recipe. Books can be the perfect seasoning, don't you think?
A bit of sage to take your mind to places it hasn't been, or a dash of rosemary to soothe your soul. We chatted about it today in our group, and guess who raised their hand first?
Juwon, that man is as curious as a cat, I tell you, soaking up knowledge like a sponge soaking up olive oil. And honestly, it's fantastic to see that. Both Yuna and I were stoked to see his enthusiasm. You know what's funny? All of this started with an idle thought. It was like taking a bite of a dessert and suddenly being inspired to create a new dish. I was reading this philosophy book, right? Trying to understand the universe and its mysteries. Philosophy, like cooking, is an art. It requires patience and precision, just like precisely chopping onions or perfectly kneading dough. So can't a chef enjoy a deep dive into existential dilemmas? Who said all we should focus on are onions and garlic? You wouldn't believe. But Gary, the new member in our club, wasn't very keen. Guess he prefers the physical to the intellectual. Sometimes you have to deal with a picky eater when you cook. But we have planted the seed. And if there's one thing I've learned from my little gardening project, it's that seeds turn into beautiful plants if you give them room to grow. If not today, maybe one day he will see the beauty in our book philosophy concoction, just like watching a soup come to a boil. Oh, and you'd love the first book we picked, The Power of Now. It's a souffle of mindfulness, pushing you to savor each moment. I can't wait to begin the journey. It's like preheating the oven for a fantastic pizza. The anticipation. The excitement. All right, dude, the pots and pans are calling. The restaurant won't run itself, would it? But when we meet next, pack your climbing gear and your thinking cap, for we'll have a lot to discuss. You see, it's going to be a blend of philosophy and bouldering, a tete-a-tete like no other. Till then, keep the good vibes boiling.